On this episode, we're going to be discussing backup power for your handheld radio. Hello and welcome to the Field Radio channel. My name is John W7DBO. Thank you for clicking and tuning in on this week's episode. This one spurs from some comments made on YouTube and also our local Facebook group for our amateur radios about what backup power are you using for your handheld radio. And one thing of interesting note was the person posting a question talked about how their local ARES group has levels of certification. And so the first level of certification on equipment says that you need to have a 2 meter or 2 meter 70 centimeter preferred radio. And then their next line is alkaline battery pack for handheld radio with spare batteries. And so that's their level 1. Then you look at level 2, 3, 4, and 5. Well, at level 4 is finally when they recommend getting a backup battery. So I thought we would kind of talk about all the available options and what's best for you. And so it was kind of a discussion on our group about, you know, is the AA battery clamshells really the preferred method anymore? So I put a survey out on Facebook and found some interesting results where people did find that there was still value in that alkaline pack, but more than often people talked about just having a spare battery. That was one of the options, or having a 12-volt adapter. Those were more preferable than having some type of AA clamshell. So let's go through the different types of things. So what I have here in front of me this is my primary HT go bag. It's just an HT bag because it's not necessarily, you know, for emergency communications. This is just how I protect my everyday use radios, and so that's in this bag. And then the next bag I have, this is my handheld emergency go bag. I have a video that I'll link above showing the contents of this bag. So we'll talk about what charging options are in there. And then also have my everyday carrier, my EDC bag, and I'll also link above the video I did on that. So let's break down all three of these things and kind of show you all the different options that are available and their pros and cons for each one. Okay, so for my primary radio, I have my Kenwood THD74. I do not have a secondary battery for this. I walked around Dayton Hamvention and Hamcation in Florida trying to find a battery vendor for this that I could not find one that was a reasonable price. So I'm only operating with the single battery that it came with. So my options are AC, obviously, and I have a cradle, but this is what I take with me in a bag. So I have my AC charger, and then I also have my DC charger. And so these are the two options for this radio that I have. So that's something to think about is you can charge DC direct into the radio without a cradle. And this is the situation where I don't have the cradle with me because it wouldn't add value inside my bag. Okay, so for my HT radio go bag, they are Baofeng, so I have the most available options for this bag. So first of all, a secondary battery. This by far was the most popular option. Is just have a secondary battery, so you just basically double the functionality of your system. But if you can have an extended secondary battery, you might as well get a little bit more power. So now my backup battery has extra. And because I have two radios in this bag, I actually have two spare batteries. So spare battery number 1 voted the best secondary power supply for your HT if your HT has an affordable battery option. Okay, now moving next, I do have the cradle. Now, I do bring the cradle in this bag because it does have value. First of all, we have our AC charger. So never discount your AC charger in your HT go bags because you may be working a parade with your local ARES group and you may have a power pole right there that has power you can plug into. Or you're in an EOC and they have electricity. So never assume that just because it's an emergency you're not going to have AC power, which is going to be your fastest form of charging. And then so with that, I have the 12-volt option for this cradle charger. Now, the benefit of having the cradle charger is because I have a secondary battery, when my primary battery is dead, I can be charging my primary battery while I'm using my secondary, and then I can leapfrog back and forth. So the cradle does have value when you have a secondary battery, because you can be charging one while you're using one and not be tethered. And so those are the options there for the cradle, having AC and DC. Now the next option is this is basically a clamshell. There's no battery in it, and it goes direct into 12 volt. So this was another popular option that was voted on in the YouTube group. The only downside to this is you may get some vehicle interference if you're running other electronics in your vehicles. But this is a great thing. You can plug in, get full power, plug this into a battery. Doesn't necessarily have to be in a car. And so that just gives you a constant power. So now you just took your HT small battery and plugged it into, say, a Bio NO 20 amp hour battery. Now you have pretty much almost infinite radio power. And so that's another option. Then the last option that's most voted was the clamshell method. And so this is the clamshell that you put your AA batteries in. Now, this still has value because if everything else has failed, you can still go around and raid remotes to get AA batteries. More than likely, you're going to be able to find a store that's selling AA batteries, and you can buy them and start plugging them in and feeding them. Assuming you're in an emergency situation where stores are open and available and you're able to buy batteries. So a lot of radio manufacturers, I should say, you want to check with your radio specific. Sometimes they have dummy loads that go in here. And then also sometimes the radio senses that you are running this type of system, and it will reduce the output of your radio down to low power, which in some situations may mean you're a receive only. So this is why the clamshell is the least preferred method. The most preferred method is going to be having your backup battery. And then the second preferred method is having some type of 12 volt system where you can plug into another battery. Okay, and then the last option for my EDC bag is, I've already covered this in previous videos, is a USB charger that goes directly into the battery. So this is another good option, not as popular because of course you are delivering a 5 volt charge to the battery, so it's going to be a slower charger, but a slower charge is better than no charge. And so I would say this one would not be considered your primary form of regenerating power for your battery, but its compactness lends itself good to something like an EDC bag. I hope you found this video helpful. As always, comment below and share some ideas on what you've found as helpful, and also please consider subscribing. Until next time, this is John W7DBO with the Field Radio Channel. Get outdoors and get on the air.